Cameras alone do not explain why China feels safe. At 11 at night, the subway can still be crowded. Restaurants are still serving. Delivery riders are still moving. Older people are still exercising in parks. Women may be walking home alone with a phone in one hand. That ordinary scene is the real puzzle. In a 2024 survey covering 144 countries and territories, Gallup gave China a law and order index score of 93 out of 100. That placed it among the highest-scoring societies in the survey. That does not prove every street is safe. The index asks about feeling safe alone at night, confidence in local police, theft, and assault. But it tells us the feeling is not just a tourist anecdote. The easy explanations are familiar. China feels safe because there are cameras everywhere, or because the laws are strict, or because Chinese culture is peaceful. Each explanation catches one piece. None explains the whole system. One plausible way to explain the pattern is as an incentive structure. For many forms of public violence and street crime, the potential reward is limited, the chance of leaving evidence is high, and the personal cost can be enormous. Crime can become a high-risk, low-return decision. This is a mechanism-based interpretation. Public data do not tell us how much each factor contributes inside China. Start with guns. China's gun control law says the state strictly controls firearms and prohibits possession, manufacture, trade, transport, rental, or lending outside the legal system. Civilian access is limited to narrow, regulated categories such as approved sporting units, hunting grounds, and certain pastoral or wildlife-related uses. That changes what happens during 30 seconds of anger. Two drunk men can still fight. A road rage argument can still become violent. A family dispute can still turn deadly. China did not eliminate rage. It reduced access to a tool that can turn one impulsive decision into several deaths within seconds. Research from outside China supports the mechanism, even if it cannot prove China's entire safety record. A systematic review found that access to firearms in the home was associated with a higher risk of homicide victimization. Another review, based on policy studies from American states, found that reductions in firearm homicides were generally not replaced by other homicides. That supports a possible mechanism. It does not estimate how much gun control explains China's reported sense of safety. Identification may change the calculation too. Modern city life can produce records through cameras, transport systems, phones, digital payments, vehicles, building access, and nearby devices. Steal a phone in a busy district, and the theft may be only the first trace you create. You may appear on a camera before the theft and after it. You may enter a station, hail a car, contact a buyer, or try to resell the device. The sources used here do not provide comparable Chinese clearance rate data. They cannot tell us how often those clues lead to an arrest. The narrower point is that digital city life can create more potential clues. The strongest deterrent is not necessarily the harshest sentence. An evidence summary from the United States National Institute of Justice says the certainty of being caught generally matters more than punishment severity. That is a broader criminology finding, not a China-only law of nature. So cameras are not magic. A camera that nobody checks deters little. A digital trail that cannot be connected to a person solves nothing. For deterrence to work, institutions would need to connect evidence to a person and respond quickly enough for detection to feel likely. Surveillance is only one input. The public sources here do not measure how consistently that full chain works across China. China has organized crime. The existence of an anti-organized crime law should not be mistaken for proof that organized crime disappeared. The measurable fact is narrower. China adopted a national anti-organized crime law in 2021. It defines and targets groups that use violence or threats to dominate an area or industry and disrupt social and economic order. The law does not prove how common territorial gangs are. It shows that the state explicitly treats this kind of coercive power as a governance target. Why target it so directly? Because territorial violence can reproduce itself. One gang arms because another gang is armed. Shops pay because refusal is dangerous. Residents stop talking because witnesses are exposed. The gang becomes an employer, a tax collector, and a local government at the same time. Prevent that structure from becoming normal, and many secondary crimes lose their protection. Public space matters too. and it does not look like policing. Noodle shops, convenience stores, taxi drivers, delivery riders, security guards, dog walkers, and neighbors keep public space occupied long after office hours. This is a familiar pattern in many Chinese urban neighborhoods, not a measurement of every city. Criminologists call part of this natural surveillance. Research on street lighting has found crime reductions, although the mechanism may involve community use and informal social control as much as simple visibility. That study was not about China. It only supports a plausible urban mechanism. A bright street full of normal activity may offer fewer private moments for predatory crime. If someone shouts on an empty road, nobody may hear. If someone shouts outside a late-night restaurant, customers look up, phones come out, and somebody may call for help. No one needs to be a hero. They only need to be present. This is why density can work in two directions. Crowds create targets, but they also create witnesses. A busy transit system produces opportunities for theft, but it also produces cameras, staff, access records, and hundreds of observers. Urban activity can make a city feel free while quietly making some crimes harder. A criminal conviction can cost more than prison time. It can damage employment, family relationships, reputation, and a person's standing in a community. Those informal costs exist in many societies. The sources here do not establish that they are uniquely strong in China. Informal pressure is also a double-edged tool. It may deter some offenders. In any society, it can also make victims fear the social cost of reporting domestic violence, sexual assault, or abuse inside the family. Informal control can produce order in public and silence in private. That leads to the strongest opposing argument. Maybe China does not feel safe because it solved crime. Maybe it feels safe because surveillance is extensive, policing is powerful, public disorder is suppressed, and some harms are less visible or less openly discussed. That is a real legal and ethical concern, even when its scale is difficult to measure. China's own privacy laws show that the trade-off is not imaginary. The Personal Information Protection Law protects personal data, and rules effective in 2025 restrict some uses of facial recognition. Those rules exist because identification systems can protect people and intrude on them at the same time. Safety and liberty are not automatically the same thing. And street safety is not total safety. A country can have quiet subways and still have telecom fraud. It can suppress visible disorder and still have domestic violence. It can feel safe to a tourist while being less safe for a victim whose danger lives behind a closed door. The honest claim is narrower. Gallup respondents report high personal security, and many people behave as if they expect ordinary urban space to remain usable. The public sources assembled for this video do not provide comparable Chinese crime, clearance, and reporting rate data. That blocks a clean causal verdict from this source set. That behavior is evidence of its own kind. People take late trains. Families eat after dark. Older residents occupy parks. Shops stay open without armed guards. Phones remain visible in crowded public places. Statistics describe safety. Daily routines reveal whether people believe it. So why does China report such a strong sense of personal security? Not because Chinese people are morally superior. Not because a camera automatically stops crime. Not because punishment alone fixes human behavior. A plausible explanation is that several layers reinforce one another. Limited firearm access, active public space, potential digital evidence, explicit pressure against organized coercion, and formal and informal consequences. The evidence supports the mechanisms. It does not measure each layer's contribution inside China. Remove any one layer, and the system may still work. Remove enough layers, and the calculation changes. A weapon becomes available. A street empties. Identification becomes unlikely. A gang offers protection. A crime starts to look profitable. Public safety is not a national personality. It is an operating system. The real lesson is not that China eliminated bad people. No society can do that. The broader lesson is that a city can become safer when bad behavior repeatedly meets friction. Fewer lethal tools, fewer private opportunities, more evidence, and a credible chance of consequences. China's reported personal security as costs, blind spots, and unresolved trade-offs. Its everyday urban order still deserves explanation. When crime becomes high risk and low reward, fewer people need to be saints. More of them only need to decide that it is not worth it. Follow me, and I will take you inside the real story of China.